Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to try and make this the last part of your lecture. We're going to go over two things, early childhood education and rehabilitative services. Let's talk about early childhood education first. The history of early childhood education is pretty vast. We actually did have universal child care back in 1940 during World War II. It was through the Lanham Act. It was there, if anybody can guess why. World War II, right? The idea that they wanted to have women in the workforce, which meant that children had to have somewhere to go during the day. Now, as soon as the war ended, the Lanham Act also kind of dissolved, and it didn't have any early childhood access, at least not universally, until Lyndon B. Johnson came into office and he had his war on poverty. During that time, part of that piece of legislation was establishing Head Start, and that was in 1964. We know that there are some pretty significant implications for offering early childhood education, especially for families that are lower socioeconomic status. They help close the gaps for them. They have higher scores in math and reading when they attend early childhood programs. They have better foundational academic skills. They have higher social emotional skills, and they also have higher educational attainment. They're more likely to graduate high school, more likely to go to college, all of those pieces if they are provided early childhood education. So it's a great example of how a preventative service can really make a difference. They're preventing something from happening by giving access early, right? Okay, moving on to rehabilitative services. There are corrections, of course, right? Thinking about services provided for individuals in the community that have difficulty following the rules and laws of the community. And we think of that typically as older adults. It also exists for children or children under the age of 18. This is in juvenile court. It's not a criminal court. There's no jury present. There's no determination of guilty or not guilty. It really is for the understanding of how can we make this child successful and positive in the community? How can we make sure they're getting the supports they need to be a positive community member when they become an adult, and kind of trying to change that around. Now, in order to do this, they have to gain a lot of information about that child to be successful, because every child has a unique circumstances and has unique needs. So they're going to take a look at who the child is, and look at who the family is, try to understand what's happening within the family context, the culture they come from, and what piece that might be playing. What level is their socioeconomic status? Are there issues around food security? And of course, the physical condition of the child. Are they able to move around? Are they malnourished? All of those things are going to impact what they feel like needs to happen in order to make that child successful in the community. So again, from a place of corrections, sometimes we think of it as just straight punishment. But the idea behind being a rehabilitative service is that we're really looking at it through the lens of what can we do to ensure that you get back to being a positive member of this community. And that even starts happening at a young age for children, and really thinking of them from a comprehensive point of view of, you are a whole person that has whole needs. What can we do to make sure that you get to a good place? All right, moving on from corrections, let's talk about mental health a little bit. Mental health for children, typically that starts occurring because you get a referral by a teacher or the court or medical professionals. There's a whole list of reasons for referrals, including truancy, which again is being absent for a lot of days of school, running away, lying, stealing, setting fires, aggressive behaviors, checking out, not paying attention, not answering people, not participating in the normal activities, withdrawal, eating disorders, being excessively fearful, having excessive fears or extreme fears, and being suicidal. So all of those things can warrant needing additional support, which can look like medical or psychological services. They're not only provided just to the child, but also to the family. So really thinking about that from a perspective of an ecological system, and understanding that if you want something to change for a child, there are other layers you have to impact in order for it to change for them, right? It can't just be with the child because something is happening within that ecological context to facilitate or perpetuate the problem for them. And that's why the family is also involved. All right, moving on, talking about special needs. Special needs breaks down into two categories for rehabilitative services. And this is kind of one that's a little trickier for me to wrap my head around, because I don't really think of people with disabilities needing rehabilitative services. But again, thinking about it from the definition of trying to make them be or have accessible opportunities in the community, that's why we think of it as a rehabilitative service. Also, recent immigrants is the other area we're going to look at. And that, when we think about rehabilitative services for recent immigrants, we're thinking about classes, education, right? English language classes, American history classes, government classes, culture classes, all things that help them kind of acclimate to their new environment, but also provide some understanding of what they might need to know to pass the citizenship test. I did want to share with you a government services website around what services they actually have access to, just because that's kind of constantly changing and there might be misinformation out there. around what immigrants actually are eligible for. It's called usafacts.org. It is an overview of all the government programs, but I have checked into it. They all come directly from the government. They're just summarizing it here. And as you can see, there's been some changes. So anything that is kind of has this gray box around it, as you can see in this code here, means that it was just recently changed with the big beautiful bill back in, I believe, June or July. But as you can see, for the most part, really a lot of the services are really only going to either citizens, green card holders, or refugee and asylum seekers. Other categories do not get access to things like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP benefits, additional assistance with funding down here, federal student aid. All of those things are not being given unless you are a citizen, green card holder, or a refugee asylum seeker. All right, Head Start is one of those areas that just recently changed. Before the big beautiful bill, it was being provided to all of the categories, and now it's just provided to refugees, asylum seekers, green card holders, and citizens. So if you have an idea of, or you're wondering what services recent immigrants get, this will help you out. All right. It also includes what kinds of things they have to do in order to be here or that they paid towards. So across the board, every single group is paying taxes. We can tell that the only people who are allowed to vote in elections are those that are citizens. And then there's eligibility to work as well. Okay, so just give you a context of the supports that immigrants are receiving. There are some supports they receive, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you're surprised by how many. Okay, going back to our lecture to talk about special needs, and then you get to be done. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Let's talk about people with disabilities. So you're thinking about special education, getting an evaluation to maybe get services. That's something that is a rehabilitative service. Financial assistance, we think about Social Security, taxes, income, counseling, vocational training, and referrals for treatment. All of those things are special need rehabilitative services. If you have any questions about any pieces of the lecture, please feel free to reach out. I have my references attached in the lecture slides if you're curious about following it on any of those sources. Otherwise, I will see you in the watch and work. Hope you're having a great week. I am here for you if you need me.